Am I the jerk for taunting my ex's widow after she lost her court case for visitation with my son? The father of my son 4M left me for someone else when I 25F was 6 months pregnant. Ex and this woman Mavis married when my son was 3 weeks old roughly. They demanded she come to his visits with our son, and I refused. My reason? They said he needed to get to know his mom as well as his dad, and she was definitely his mom now. They were married and everything. And yeah, that's how they argued it. I never stopped him from seeing our son, but I didn't allow her anywhere near my home, and our son was 10 months old before X could take him out for visitation. Then I could do nothing about her being there, but at least she wasn't calling herself my son's mom in my home. She did join my ex every time he dropped our son home with me, and she would try to start a fight because I wouldn't let her hold him to say goodbye once X handed our son to me. She'd get mad I would refuse to let her spend time alone with our son too. X was awarded every other weekend visitation when our son was 18 months old. He lost that visitation when our son was 2 because his wife tried to take our son out of daycare without permission and the cops had to be called. He went back to visits at my house, and she was not allowed near my house or my son. That softened after a few more months. She had to issue an apology and take some classes, and then every other weekend restarted. Then my ex died last year. My son was with me at the time, so there was no fight to get him back or her trying to run with him or anything, and I think she'd have tried to keep my son if X died during his visitation weekends. Mavis then tried to sue me for shared custody as his other parent. That case was thrown out because she was not a legal parent and had no parental rights to my son. Instead, she tried to sue for visitation and unfortunately, that went to court. It took a few months and we had 2 dates before the judge in order to get a ruling. She was denied visitation. It was decided she had not played a big enough role in my son's life and she wasn't his family anymore. I was relieved. Mavis was screaming about appeals as we left court. She tried to confront me a week after court, and I was feeling so done with her shit, and I taunted her and told her she would never be in my son's life again and go fuck herself because she's all alone now, and with the way she acts it didn't surprise me. She started screaming after me, but I kept going. It was only afterward I wondered if it was unfair because she did lose my ex, and she might have felt some genuine care for my son. IDK. I think she's just unhinged. But maybe I was still in AH. Aitah? A conversation op had in the comments. Commenter. You are not TA for winning court and going by the court order and wanting to protect him. Let me be clear, you are TA for first off not allowing your ex to be around his child just because he left you, especially since he was only there in your son's life for such a short time and you prevented him from what little time he had with his father because of your own jealousy and insecurities because she was his stepmom and she probably did and does care for him. Like it or not, I mean, what's wrong with one more person in his life to love him? I myself have 2 stepchildren, and their mom was much like you. As I met him when they were 2 and 9, their mom used to tell them mean things that were completely untrue about me. Now that they are grown and get to make their own choices, one calls me mom by their own accords. I wouldn't ever force this on them, and generally calls his mom by her first name, and the older one is still brainwashed and thinks him a monster, which is okay too. I'll still support her, etc. when she calls for help from her dad, etc. I am far from a bad person and love them with all my heart like my own kids and would only want the best for them, which at least one sees now. You are kinda unhinged yourself and a bad person for not allowing his father to be around him because he now had a stepmom. No, she wasn't right for trying to remove him from daycare and wasn't allowed to, obviously, but she took the steps to show she was wrong. You are also TA for taunting her because she lost. She quite clearly knows she's not going to see him anymore, and no need to rub it in like a childish a-hole, especially that she's going to be alone and deserves it because in fact he left you as well and you are now alone yourself. Do you deserve it? If not, and you have someone in your life playing stepdad, you are a bigger ass for not allowing him the same rights. But I do ask, what would be so freaking awful if this woman could come over once a month to see her child at your house? Seems how she lost his father and he is the only connection on earth to him left. What would it be so bad that your son received an extra gift during Christmas or his birthday from someone his father loved? But because you are petty and mad he left you, she will be punished, which in the long run you will have to answer for. Because I sure bet you'd be totally okay if a man came into your life you loved and was a stepdad. I also wonder if you allow your child to see your ex's actual family, i.e., parents, siblings, etc., so they can keep his dad's memory fresh in his mind and have the opportunity to be in his life since his dad can't be. I will probably be downvoted for my opinion, but most people who are honest generally are.
Up.
I'm single and there is no stepfather figure in my son's life. But he has grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. He has family. This includes my ex's family. We remained on good terms. They have nothing to do with her. Even when X was alive, they wanted nothing to do with her. Commenter. I'm glad they remain in his life and are around. But as a stepmom who truly does care for my husband's kids as much as my own, and his ex is much like you, I think it's kinda crappy you didn't let him be around his child because you are mad he left you and loved another woman and used your child as a pawn in your own game. I myself have spent thousands of my own money to buy clothes, shoes, gifts, etc., school supplies, etc., to ensure they needed everything they did in life, even when I wasn't allowed to see them for no other reason than their mom was jealous of our relationship. And when your son asks about his dad and the time he did have with him, will you be honest and say, because he loved another woman, you did everything in your power to keep him from you, because this is in fact the truth. I hope you don't lie and say you went out of your way to make sure he had every moment on earth with him, because this is a lie. I wish your son the best, and that live yourself, live a life alone, because you wish this on someone else whose only crime was loving a man who left you. After all, this is only fair in my own opinion as a person who is a stepmom and dealt with someone the same as you. And be happy your ex did die, because as your child grew up like my husband's son did, he grew up to see his mom was actually the one you kept him from his dad and was in fact the monster. He now resents his mother for her actions in keeping him from his dad only because he moved on in his life. For instance, my son now, technically stepson, but I don't use the step term, needed new socks and was short on funds after bills as a grown man called me not his dad and asked, and guess what I sent them? ASAP, because that's what a mom does even if you didn't technically give birth to them yourself.
Up.
I did let him be around his child. He came to my house to see our son. He was allowed to visit. Even before we had a court order in place, I allowed visits. So I didn't stop him from seeing his dad. I stopped her from seeing my son. But he was welcome. It's not my fault if he didn't visit as often because she wasn't welcome. Why would I welcome her into my home? She hardly knew my ex and didn't know my son and was claiming him as hers. She even said I should give my son to them to raise if I found it so hard to be alone. Just because I was pissed at him for leaving me during my pregnancy for someone else didn't mean I didn't want our son or wasn't capable of raising him. But she would have happily stolen him from me if given the chance. Commenter. Still think not allowing her around him because you didn't like her is petty and childish. Sorry, who are you to say he didn't know her long enough? If he loved her, that's all that matters, and I will always claim my stepkids as mine whether their mom like it or lump it. And it's funny you wished her alone when in fact you yourself are, and probably will remain so because of the karma you'll get from taunting her.
Up.
My son has already forgotten her. We are better off without her in our lives. His father's family have not kept her in their lives either. Everyone wants her gone. She is not someone I would want influencing or seeing my son. You can hate it all you like. I understand as a stepmom, you'll feel a way about it too. But think for a second if you had someone trying to push you out of your own child's life after being left high and dry during your pregnancy, if you'd want them around.